thought for this year's commencement address, we would open with something just a little bit different. There's been a little bit of chatter in our media that we've got some political challenges. However, going back to one of our country's most politically incendiary, almost divisive, toxic times, one leader rose to the top and he said that oftentimes our greatest growth takes place on the border between chaos and order. So again, I wanted to open with something just a little bit different, but actually a little more interactive type of commencement address. Here you see I've actually got another canvas, a couple more brushes, so I just wanted to see by a quick show of hands, who here can draw? All right, I guess it says maybe a little less than half of you. Actually, don't feel bad. I ask that question of every audience that I speak to, regardless whether it is graduating classes, financial services, engineering, educators, science and technology. I will rarely, if even ever, get even one brave soul that's going to raise their hand and say they can, in fact, draw. But if I were to go down to your high school, your high school, anywhere here in Phoenix, Arizona, anywhere throughout the country for that matter, ask those students, ages 15 to 17, who can draw, I'm going to statistically get between almost 8 and 10% of those students are going to say that they can, in fact, draw. But if I were to go down to your preschools, any preschool, and I would say, hey, kids, who here can draw? What's the response that I'm going to get? Yeah. 100% of the time, these kids, oftentimes even our own children, grandchildren, practically burst at the seams, just dying to share with me their creative energy. At what age, then, do you think that creative river that once did flow so freely and effortlessly through each and every one of us, at what age do you think it started to dry up? Early, yeah, young. Pablo Picasso said, every child is an artist. The challenge is ultimately how to remain an artist once we grow up, how to retain that childlike passion, that childlike ability to solve challenges, to navigate ambiguity, or even master complexity and plug it back into our adult life, plug it back into our graduating class to continue looking for ways to grow your own dreams. Challenge your assumptions and break through preconceived barriers or notions. And I contrary to what my fourth grade teacher taught me, during my presentation, I actually do encourage post-breakfast daydreaming. If you'd like, even doodling, drawing, texting, tweeting, Snapchatting, over the course of this presentation here, did anyone by chance bring with them to this morning's commencement their box of Crayolas? You guys remember these bad boys? That box of 64 with the sharpener in the back. So when I'm brainstorming with C-suite executives, sales and marketing teams, we're looking for new ways to organically grow channels of revenue, streamline operational efficiencies, or even anticipate emerging trends in future consumer markets. I actually require at that point that all meeting notes are taken using Crayon. Because I'm not looking for the absolute most efficient old school form of writing technique, but I'm looking to go in search of those bold, new, courageous type ideas that historically I've found Crayola's got that better chance to foster. Incidentally, a study at Yale University shows one of the top 20 most recognizable smells in the adult human experience. That's up there with what? Dill pickles? Peanut butter? It's even shown that just the smell alone of Crayola has been proven to reduce blood pressure in adults downwards 10 points.
That's cool.
Yeah, so if you had any particular frustration with traffic on Interstate 17 on the way in, pull out your box of crayons and take a drag. see if that doesn't ease your frazzled nerves just a bit.
That's good.
But one thing I would want you to know about me personally is that I've actually not always been an artist. In fact, I just started painting for the very first time in my life after I turned 30 years old. Now, I knew as a kid, I knew as a little boy that, man, I enjoyed painting, drawing, coloring. But unfortunately, I was told, almost flat out by one of my very early school teachers, that actually I was not a very good artist because I didn't color within the lines. Because I went too fast. Because I didn't pay attention to detail. Because I didn't draw the red apple red and the orange pumpkin orange. And unfortunately, I listened to her. I quit. I set down my crayons, my paintbrush. I didn't pick them up again, not once, for another 20 years. And as I went through what was at that point this very academic blueprint for success, well, at the time, and what we call this academic excellence, I became pretty good at knocking out those grades. I became very almost operationally efficient on figuring out how to just simply memorize those very homogeneous formulas, and then strategically how to retain the information just long enough so that I could time it and regurgitate it back to my teachers and then my professors along the way. But I became almost an impenetrable facade of no-nonsense, business-like seriousness. I didn't even like the arts. I didn't have time for the arts or for creativity. If it didn't have a direct return on investment to getting a better letter grade, a better advanced degree, a better promotion, or a better paycheck, I really didn't have much interest in it. So it wasn't until a series of events that happened in my own life, both personally as well as professionally, that rocked the core of my foundation. When my business, man, the one that I'd worked so hard, so logically, so conservatively, pouring myself into, all of a sudden, unexpectedly, spun out and went into financial freefall following the dot-com bomb. And I was wrecked. It made me almost physically nauseous because everything that had been trained and disciplined and programmed into my hard drive about what it meant to be successful, what it meant to do or be, or really even define myself as a man, I felt like was taken from me. And I think, looking back in retrospect, what probably disgusts me the most is somehow, somewhere along the way in this system of regulation and compliance, is I allowed my self-worth to be directly tied to my net worth. And as one evaporated, so did two go the other. I was completely lost, virtually rudderless, wrestling with this nightmare of a paradigm. And a friend of mine who's a behavioral psychologist was at first just kind of observing me from a safe distance. Does this subject deal with loss? Before he got scared. And before he broke protocol and intervened, he said, buddy, he said, Eric, you've got to disconnect from this, even only for a moment. He recommended that I go and that I travel. At least that I do something to break this downward spiral. Maybe even something I did as a kid, like painting or drawing. I just lost everything that I had. I didn't have an disposable income by which to be able to go and bravely set sail and find my purpose. So it was really probably by a little bit of a personal budget cutback. Maybe as much as anything else, just in an effort to kind of get him off my back, that I reluctantly went and bought a brush, some paint, went into my backyard, and went through the motions of physically putting paint on canvas. But it was at that point of physically putting paint on canvas that all of a sudden the right side of my mind, that side that had been intentionally repressed, intentionally held dormant or even swallowed by logic and reason, all of a sudden started to creep open again. And I began to see a lot of these challenges that were taking place in my life a little bit different. In fact, I began to see a lot of those core formulas and best practices that I'd worked so hard to memorize in business school. I began to see them from a little different perspective. And I realized at that point that I'd lived so logically, so rationally, so predictably, so conservatively, that I wondered if I really even lived at all. And certainly, please don't mistake this as a battle cry for you all to, quit your trajectories as business students in science and technology and educators and grab paintbrush and start splashing it around the world. Frank, I don't need the competition, but what it is a reminder that concept of differentiation, that concept of truly finding your purpose, your why, your passion, what drives you. Even that concept of creativity itself, I think it's been wrongly diagnosed in adults as being a genetic trait that we either were born with or without. I'll hear a lot of adults use language like, I can't even draw a stick figure. And then I don't have a creative bone in my body. But now what I've found, what I've not only researched and written about, but also experienced in real time in my own life, is that it's a practiced and disciplined skill that every single one of us in this room has access by which to be able to tap into. So no longer is the question, like I sort of opened up in jest when I said, hey, who here can draw? Because deep down, I think we've all known actually the answer to that question since we were little kids. I think the question for setting sail as the graduating class of 2016 is actually how. How are you going to once again reawaken that beginner's mind? How are you going to reignite your own curiosity in an effort to continue looking for ways to ignite and find your own purpose? And so it's fun because it's about this time in the commencement address that people sort of realize, God, this really wasn't a presentation about graffiti art at all, but rather it's about the psychology of success. And it's not a presentation about, oh, woe is me, or what happened as a young child and the dings that I felt, but it's rather, it's a presentation about all of you, because at this point, I'm just simply holding up a mirror. And it's reflecting back, and you're probably remembering a very specific time in your own lives. Maybe it was an adult, maybe it was a person of authority, maybe it was a peer that you remember very vividly made some sort of comment about maybe your art, your singing, your dancing, your ego, and we begin to withdraw. We begin to insulate ourselves from rejection or fear or failure or setbacks. And so, as you're setting sail as the class of 26, I would encourage you to not be afraid to fail. Failure is gonna happen. In fact, in many ways, I would say if you, as you launch, if you don't in some ways fail, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Right.
Failure is not the opposite of success, but rather it is part of success. It's what we do with those micro setbacks. It's what's going to be and ultimately define your future success trajectory. And I could probably predict the future trajectory of almost any graduate, any organization, really even any child, by asking one very simple question, and that is this: what is your definition of failure? Because if your definition of failure is exclusively imprisoned by that old school lockdown of being lost, deficiency, or weakness, then we will insulate ourselves from setbacks, and the height by which we'll be able to go has been capped. However, if you're able to redefine your definition of failure as being an opportunity to autocorrect, to grow, to advance, then the sky's the limit for how far you're going to be able to soar. And so this idea of imagination as being the starting point for breakthrough success means a lot to me, because one of my personal heroes subscribed to that theory. And although he in a lot of ways himself was labeled, and even almost disabled at a fairly early age, because he was practically told flat out by the system and the structure and the tradition around him that he wouldn't be successful because he didn't think like everyone else logically thought. He didn't act exactly the way everyone else was really supposed to be acting. He wanted to use that little bit of difference, that different way of seeing and even experiencing the world to create extraordinary opportunities, simply by seeing the world through different eyes.